and welcome, or welcome back as the case may be. Today I'm going to show you how to make this bracelet, which is the Piroette bracelet. It is made with Cellini Spiral and is put over a memory wire core and then has some decorative beads on the end. I came up with this pattern because I had made Cellini spirals before, and while I really enjoyed making them, they were very heavy on the wrist, and I didn't care for that. And so I came up with this idea of just putting the Cellini spiral around a part of the bracelet. And I do find, I think it's more wearable this way than a full bracelet of Cellini Spiral. It's a bit bulky for me. So if you would like to learn to make this, then please continue watching. The only things you need to know are how to do peyote stitch in the round. That's basically all a Cellini spiral is, and the impressive spiraling qualities come by just changing the size of the beads. I have made a whole selection of these and really enjoyed it. Really like playing with different colors, and actually I haven't made one yet that didn't come out well. I think probably if I started it and didn't like it, I would stop there and start over. But yeah, so if you would like to make a Cellini spiral bracelet with me, then let's get started. I'll begin by letting you know what you're going to need to make it. To make this bracelet, you're going to need a selection of beads. So let's start over here with the largest one. These are 3mm fire polish beads. You could also use other similar shaped 3mm beads, or if you want to use a bicone, you could use a 4mm bicone. And then you will need an 8/0 seed bead, and I'm using matte pink lilac permanent galvanized round Japanese seed bead. It's a very long description. And then you will need two different 11/0 seed beads. This one is metallic gold over transparent light amber round Japanese seed beads. This one is pink lilac permanent galvanized round Japanese seed beads. That's a Toho bead. And then you will also need a size 15 bead. So this is gold lined crystal AB and is also a Toho bead. In addition to the beads, you're going to need some thread. I am using Nozue Sonoko. I like using this because it has a little bit of stretch to it, which I think is nice for helping to pull together all the beadwork, but without making it too stiff. And then you will need some heavy-duty memory wire. This is 1mm. It's quite heavy-duty. I found using the regular memory wire that it just wasn't stiff enough or heavy-duty enough, and it wouldn't allow the beadwork to keep its shape. It was just too flimsy. So anyway, you need some of this, and then you will need a needle. I'm using a tulip size 11, and I was able to do everything including the 15/0s without any problem, even going through them several times. And then as far as tools, the only thing you will need will be round nose pliers, and that will be to put this loop on the end. So either regular round nose pliers or ones like this that have set sizes. And then you will also need some beads for the end. So part of what makes this a little lighter is the beadwork does not go all the way down to the end, and that also makes it a little quicker to make up too. And so I just have an assortment of beads down at the bottom. They can be anything that you like. You just need to make sure of two things. One, that they will go over the memory wire. Seed beads will not, unless it's a very large seed bead or has a very large hole in it. I think this is maybe like a size 3, so that went over. But whatever you can find that will go easily over them. On this one, even though this is a really tiny little bead, it's metal, and I found that it seems like metal beads have larger holes in them for their size. So whatever, get an assortment, see what you like, what'll go with the colors you're using, and then just make sure that it will fit over the memory wire. And that's it. That's all you'll need. So now I'll show you how to get started. Okay, to begin, get whatever length of thread you like working with on your needle. You will need to add thread a number of times. This is a very thread-intensive stitch, and it wouldn't be possible, I don't think, to get enough thread on your needle at one go. I think I have added thread about 3 times, and I use a double wingspan, so what's that, about a yard or so each time. So let's begin picking up our beads. So we're going to start picking up our smallest beads, and we're going to pick up 4 of them. So 4 of the 15 O's, and then bring it down. You need to leave about a yard of thread, excuse me, a foot of thread at the end. So I am doing that, and what you could do is to put on a stop bead down there, and put it up about a foot so that you can't make a mistake and accidentally shorten your thread. Okay, so there I've got a stop bead, which is just, any bead that doesn't look like what you're using in your project. And there we go, it's about a yard in. Excuse me, a foot in. I'm not sure why I keep saying a yard. And now we are going to keep adding our beads that we're going to use. So we've got our 4 15 O's. Now we're going to pick up 2 of our first 11 O and 2 of our second 11 O, 2 of our 8 O, and 2 of our fire polished bead. They do not want to get on my needle though. Okay, so I'm going to bring all those down so you can see what we have now. So this is pretty much 1/2, a little more than 1/2 of what we'll be using. So we've been gradually increasing in size. Now we're going to decrease, although we're not going to put any more 15 O's because we put 4 on at the beginning. So now I'm going to just work backwards here, and I'm going to pick up 2 8 O's, 2 of the champagne colored 11 O's, 2 of the pink 11 O's, and then that's it. So I'm going to bring all those down. Okay, and there we go. So now we're going to make this into a circle, and you can do this just a part at a time or go up through all of them, whatever you like. Okay, there I've gone through all of them. Now I'm going to pull my thread And just keep pulling, pulling, pulling until I have a circle. Okay, so now I am going to go through 2 more beads. Well, first I'm going to pull off the bead on the end because I don't need that any longer. And now I'm going to go up through 2 of the 15-ohs. Okay, so like that. And again, I'm going to pull it through. There's no need to tie a knot. This is going to be very substantial, and it's not going to come apart. If you know peyote, which I'm assuming you do, you know that the first row or round actually becomes row or round 1 and 2. So this first row is actually row 3. So I am going to pick up a bead. Oh, and what the rule with making a Cellini spiral is very simple. Whatever bead you're coming out of, that's what bead you pick up. So I'm coming out of a 15, so I pick up a 15. I skip the next bead and go in through the one following that. And for right now, you don't have much to hang on. You can hold on to the tail thread if you like. I find it more secure to just put the beadwork between my thumb and finger. I know it makes it a little harder for everyone else to see what I'm doing, but I'll try and make sure I let you see often enough so you can tell what's going on. Okay, so now I am again coming out of a 15-oh, so I'm going to pick up a 15-oh. Then I'm going to skip a bead and go in through the following bead. In subsequent rows, you will have up beads and down beads, which are caused by what we're doing now. But this first round, you don't really have that, but it's shouldn't be an issue, because another easy way to tell what you're doing in Cellini Spiral is that you always have 2 of each bead showing. So you're always going to be skipping the first one and going through the second one. So now I am coming out of a pink 11-oh, so I'm going to pick up a pink 11-oh. I'm going to skip the next bead, and I'm going to go through the following one. And the thing is, once you've got this down, you're just going to do the same thing over and over and over again. It's kind of like munching popcorn. You know, you can easily listen to an audiobook, watch a movie, whatever you would like. Okay, so I am coming out of the champagne 11, so I'm going to pick up another champagne 11. I'm going to skip the next bead and then go through the following one. Now at first this is going to, oops, I forgot to pick up a bead. My bead must have fallen off. Back up there one stitch. Okay, coming out of champagne 11, picking up a champagne 11. Now I'm going to skip a stitch and go through the next one. Right now there's going to be a lot of thread showing, and the whole thing is going to be wonky and pretty ugly, but that's just how it looks. It's going to be fine once we get down the road a little bit. Alright, so we're coming out of a pink 8-oh, so I'm going to pick up a pink 8-oh. I'm going to skip the next bead and go through the following one. In another couple of rounds, we're going to start making this into a tube, and at that point we can start pulling our threads tighter so that we don't have all this thread showing. I'm coming out of my fire polish bead, so I'm going to pick up another fire polished bead. skip a stitch, and go through the next one. And then each time I also turn this a little bit so that I am always working kind of in my comfort zone right here. All right, I'm coming out of an 8-0, so I pick up an 8-0, skip the next bead, and go through the one following that. I'm coming out of the champagne 11, so I pick up a champagne 11, I skip the next bead and go through the one following. Another reason not to try and be too tight in your beading right now is that it can be tough to get through these beads if they're too tight together. Okay, I'm coming out of the pink 11, so I am picking up another pink 11, and now the rule would be skip a bead, go through a bead. Well, actually we are going to do that, so I'll divide this into two parts because then we have our step up. So skip a bead, go through the second one. Okay, but now you see there's another up bead right here. So that is how you know it's time to step up. When we do rounds, when we do rows, we just make a turn and go down the next, create the next row. But in a round, you have to step up to the next row. And so you will always know that when you hit your 15 O's, that's when it's time to step up. Okay, so now we are going to just repeat what we did. Coming out of a 15-0, pick up a 15-0, and now you can see a little better that there are beads sticking out, even though it's still very loose, but you can tell that. So I'm coming out of a 15, I pick up a 15, and I'm going to go through the pink 11. Now if you notice what happened there is this pink 11 had moved to the inside because everything's so loose. It had just kind of fallen down in there. But I knew that I needed to have a pink 11 because that's the next color. So I could see it had just kind of moved over to this side of the bead. So I just moved it over to this side of the bead below it. Alright, I'm coming out of a pink 11, so I pick up a pink 11, and now here my next up bead is sitting on top. All this weirdness will go away once we have it into a pretty solid tube. Just takes a few rounds, being very patient to get there. Alright, we're coming out of champagne 11. I'm going to pick up a champagne 11, and then I'm going to go through this number 8. I'm going to turn it a little bit, coming out of an 8, so I'm going to pick up an 8. And this is where things are really loose, because our beads are getting larger and larger, so they're wobblier and wobblier and have more and more thread show. But after this round, which is number 4, we'll be able to start pushing it into a tube. So I'm coming out of a 3mm fire polish, so that's what I pick up. I can see here is my next up bead, and I know it's the right one because I'm now going down in size. So the next one down from the fire polish is the 8-0. Next, I am coming out of an 8-0, so I pick up an 8-0, and my next up bead is going to be this Champagne 11-0. Coming out of the Champagne 11-0, so I pick up another one, and I go through my next bead, which is the pink 11-0. Okay, now I am picking up, I'm coming out of a pink 11-0, so I'm going to pick up a pink 11-0, and now I'm going to go skip a bead and go through the next one. And so I know now that I am going to do my step up here, because this is always the first of the 15 O's that I go through. I'm always going to be going through 2, the one in this round, and then the step up to the next round. And you can pick them up one at a time, go through one and then the other, or you can do both, whatever's easiest for you. For me, it just kind of depends on the round. All right, so now we are back at the beginning. And so I'm going to start kind of folding this over and forming it into a semblance of a tube. I'm also going to bring my end thread through here so it doesn't end up on the wrong side. Okay, there we go. All right, so now I have it kind of tube-ish. It gives you a little bit more to hang on to. So I am coming out of a 15, so I'm going to pick up a 15. And now I'm going to go through the second 15 that I'm seeing. This is an up bead. You just can't see very well, so I'm just going by the second one. Okay, I'm coming out of a 15, so again I'll pick up another one. I'm going to skip the next bead and go through the following one, which you're a little better able to tell is the up bead. Okay, so I am coming out of a pink 11-0, so I'm going to pick up a pink 11-0. I'm going to go through the next up bead, which is the second of the Champagne 11s. I'm coming out of a Champagne 11, so I'm going to pick that up and go through the next up bead, which is my second 8-0. Again, I'm continuing to just kind of nudge them in place, tighten it a little bit, and move the circle around between my fingers so that I'm always working out this way. All right, so now I'm coming out of an 8, so I pick up an 8. I go through my up bead, which is the second fire polish. Okay, I'm coming out of a fire polish, so I'm going to pick up a fire polish. I'm going to go through the next up bead, which is my second 8-0. So I'm on the downhill side of my round. I'm coming out of an 8-0, so I'm going to pick up another 8-0, go through the next up bead, which is the second Champagne 11. I'm coming out of a Champagne 11, so I'm going to pick one up and go through the second pink 11-0, which is my next up bead. And I am back to the beginning again. Another way you can tell you're back to your beginning is because that's where your tail thread is. So I know that I'm coming out of a pink 11, so I'm going to pick up a pink 11. And now I'm going to go up through the next up bead, which is the second 15-0, but then I'm also going to go up through the bead after it, which is kind of on the diagonal there. And so now we have finished our next round. So I'm tightening it up here, and now I am going to continue with the next round. So I'm picking up a 15 because I'm coming out of a 15. I'm going to go through the next up bead, which is a 15. Now it's getting a little easier, but you still don't have what to me is really a tube. It kind of flattens, and when I was first learning Cellini Spiral, I found this kind of difficult, like which side am I working from? And it really does help if you just keep it as much in a tube as you can, like that. All right, now I am picking up a pink 11, and I know that this is the last stitch that I will take in this round, and that means my next stitch, after I go through it, I'm going to need to go and step up to the next round. So I'm going to go skip a bead, go through the next bead, and then step up to the following bead. There, I've successfully finished another round. All right, I'm going to do another round or two, and then I'm going to go off camera and make the length of beadwork that I need. This is probably a good place to tell you. How much you need really depends on what you want to do. For instance, I have about 5 inches of Cellini Spiral here. And I like that because it kind of covers the top and the top of the sides of my wrist. So I kind of like that. The beads, the larger beads are just on the bottom. But there are no rules about this. You could make it shorter if you wanted, and then just have the larger beads for the rest of it. You even could make the beadwork go all the way down to the end. I would put at least one larger bead down at the end, or it's going to be tough to keep the spiral from not sliding over this or getting caught in it. But really, how much you do is up to you. But I know for me, about 5 inches is kind of my sweet spot. That's what I like. So, grabbing my tail thread, I know that I am starting a new round now. So I'm just kind of getting things as much of a tube as I can. You could probably also do this over a form like a straw or anything that's round and about the right diameter for you. All right, I'm coming out of a 15, so I'm going to add a 15. I'm coming out of a 15, so again I'm going to add one. And with each round now, the up beads are a little more obvious. After I do this section, I'm going to do a length of beads to where it's really well established, and then I'm going to show this to you again because everything's still kind of folding up and not really standing up straight, and I think it's easier to see this when everything is really well established and standing up straight. Okay, so there we are. I have just done my step up, so now I'm going to kind of tug on everything to get it in shape. And so there's my spiral starting to form. Okay, I'm going to go off and do some more of this, and then I will come back in and show you another round or so once it's well established. So I have just completed my step up, and so I'm right here, and now I'm going to do 2 of the 15-0 stitches. There's 1, and there's 2. Okay, now I am coming out of the pink 11-0, so I'm going to pick up another pink 11-0. Angle that so you can see it well. So now I'm going through the next stitch, or the next bead, which is the champagne 11-0. And go through my next up bead. And I think you can see the up beads much more clearly now. So this is down, this is up. So you're always going to see 2 of each type of bead, the down bead and the up bead. So we're always going to skip the down bead, which will be the first of the pair, and go through the up bead, which will be the second one of the pair. Right, so now I am coming out of a 15-0. So now I am going to have 2 of the fire polished. It's a little difficult to tell because these are so much larger than the other beads. They don't do the up and down part very well, but you can always also go by just the second of the pair that you see. So I'm coming out of this number 8. So I'm going to pick up a number 8, and I'm going to go through the second fire polish bead. Okay, and you can see how the spiraling is happening with each of the different kinds of beads here too. All right, I'm coming out of a fire polished bead, so I'm going to pick up a fire polished bead. And now I'm going to do an 8-0. So again, there are 2 8-0s that are visible, sticking out from the previous spiral pieces. So there's the down bead and the up bead. Hoping if I turn that you can see it a little better. So I'm going to go through the second one, which is the up bead. Now I'm coming out of a number 8, so I'm going to pick up another number 8. And my next beads are the champagne 11s. And here, so here's one, and here's the second one. So I'm going to go through the second one, which is the up bead. Give it a tug. Now I'm coming out of the champagne number 11, so I'm going to pick up a champagne number 11 and go through the next up bead, which is the pink number 11. Alright, now this is where I'm going to do my step up. So I'm coming out of the pink 11-0, so I pick up a pink 11-0. And then I'm going to do my step up here, play with this and see where I can get the best angle. So I have 2 beads here, so I'm going to, that is the step up. So there, I've gone through the 2 of them, and now we are back to the beginning of the next round. I have completed as much of the beadwork as I want. So now I'm going to do 5 rounds of the 11s. Now remember, you can also, if you're feeling pretty experienced and confident with this, you can also do these with 11-0s. Excuse me, with 15-0s. But I am just going to use the 11-0s. They're easier if you don't have a lot of experience, and they also are easier for you to see here, my demonstration. So now I'm not doing anything differently, except that I'm using the same bead for all the rest of those row. So I am coming, even though I'm coming out of a 15-0, I am using the champagne 11, and I'm going through the next up bead, picking up another champagne 11, and I'm going through the next up bead, which is the pink 11, and just keep pulling it tight. Okay, another 11-0. Here's my down bead and my up bead, so I'm going to go through the up bead, going to pick up another bead, go past the first of the 2 beads, the first one being the down and the second one being the up, so I'm going to go through that one. Picking up another champagne 11, my next down bead and up bead, so I'll go through the second one, the up bead, keep doing this all the way around. And the other thing I'm doing is I am kind of cinching it a little bit more than I was before, because now I am using all the same size bead, so it's going to be a little looser, so you can pull on it and it will help to make it nice and tight. Now I'm to my step up again. So I'm going to go through the last of the 15 O's I'm going to go through, and then I'm now my second stitch of my step up is going to be the champagne 11O. Okay, so there is round one. I'm going to do another round for you. And now everything is the 8 O's, the 11 O's, champagne 11 O's pretty much. So I'm just going by what's the up bead and what's the down bead, or going every other one. Giving it a tug. Now I'm getting close to the end of the second round, and that hole is closing up considerably now. So now I'm going to look down here and see where my 15 O's were so that I know I'm getting close to my step up. Okay, so I'm going to pick up another bead, and now I'm going to be doing my step up. And there it is. If your hole isn't closing up enough by now, what you can do is start skipping stitches. And so I'm going to complete this round, take a look and see if in the next round I need to do that, if I need to skip some stitches. I'll show you by the side that here we have our down up, our down up. And that hole is closing up quite nicely. Okay, I am back to the step up. And again, I'm telling by looking down here at where my 15 O's were. I have done 4 rounds here and it's looking pretty tight, so I am not going to do my 5th round. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to go back through all of the up beads from the previous row, and what this will do is it'll just help to reinforce it, make it a little stronger, because this is going to be a place with quite a bit of stress on it. And then I'm going to come back around to that first bead, All right, and as you can see there, my hole is quite small. So now I'm going to tie this off, and then we are going to go back to our first end, and we're going to use this thread that we left on this end to do the same thing we did here on the first end. So here is the completed beadwork, and I finished off both of the ends. So the next thing I'm going to do is prepare the wire. So what I'm going to do is, see if I can get this in frame. I'm going to go around my wrist, and then I need some extra because I'm going to be finishing off the ends, and it's always it's always easier to cut extra off than it is to add another piece. Yes, very, very much easier. So let me get my wire clips. All right, so I've cut the wire, and you can see I have left this overlap. So now I'm going to remove it, and I'm going to turn the edges under. And you can use a couple of different tools for this. These are just straight round nose pliers, and then this is similar, but it has definite sizes to it, which makes it a little easier. You know that you're going to get a consistent amount that's turned under each time, but this will work too. I'm just not very skilled particularly with wire work, so if I can find a way to make it easier, I definitely do. So what I want to do is I want to turn this under. So I am going to take my wire, and I'm going to put it up here at the smallest end. So it's just peeking out there. Okay, so I have one end finished, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all the beads on. So let me show you on another one here. The first thing you're going to do is put on these beads, and you want to have some small ones down at the bottom here so that they won't go over the loop. So you need to start with your smaller beads and kind of work up in whatever sort of pattern you want. So here are my beads, and so I'm going to start with the smallest. And something that I have done before but haven't done here yet is it's also a good idea to kind of lay them out so that you're not trying to think about what you're going to do while you're doing it, because that way you can have a nice pattern. Okay, so I've got a white one already on here. I'm going to pick up my other. These look like, I don't know, 3/0s or something. I'm kind of doing an every other pink and clear. Yeah, so like that. All right, and I've already put this one on, so now I can just pick up the remainder, starting from the smaller ones. And remember, before you do this, you do need to make sure that all your beads have holes large enough to go over this 1mm memory wire. Now, next we are going to thread on the beadwork we just made. I am going to start here. And this is a little bit tricky because what's going to happen is this is going to poke out sometimes. The best thing you can do is just keep it curved as much as you can so that it is similar in shape to the memory wire. So in other words, don't have it straight out like this or it's immediately going to poke through. Just kind of coax it along. And if it does stick out the side, like what happened right there, you just pull back a little bit, get it back inside, and then just keep sort of feeling your way around. Once in a while it just stops, then you back up a little bit, and you just keep manipulating it. Okay, there we go. Now I am going to put the other beads on, but in the opposite order. So I'm starting with the larger end and then going down in size. So this one first. And then while you're doing this, you also need to make sure that you have enough room here for your beads, and still have enough to turn the end. It's not a huge problem because this is pretty flexible. It's kind of like an accordion. It can go in and out a little bit, but if you do that too much, it's not going to look good. But you have a little flexibility there. And here's the last one. Okay, so this is your last chance to kind of look it over, see if there's anything you want to do differently. And if not, then you're going to push your beads down some so that you have a good amount of space to work here. So there you go. Here are examples of lots of different colors that you can use. It's really kind of fascinating seeing what different combinations you can come up with. I think that's part of the fun of it. So give this a whirl. Leave me some comments below if you want to about how it worked for you, or if you have any questions. And if you've enjoyed this, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing, and I will bring out more projects at different levels of difficulty. I try to, well, I'm not sure I'm skillful enough to try any things that are super hard, but I'd say a lot of my stuff's either beginner friendly or intermediate. So anyway, I hope I see you again soon, and thank you for watching. All right, I have completed as much of the beadwork as I